recognize this and I'm having to change that. So it's really about consciously exposing yourself to yourself, the way that you think, the way that you speak, and then of course how other people speak. You know, we very quickly get into the habit of getting sucked into that when we currently now everybody always talks about COVID and it's this and it's that and it's, you know, it's all the negative stuff rather than the positive stuff. So so on last week I had my performance review at the office. So my boss said to me, "Oh, so how things are with you?" I said, "They're great." So he's like, "Well, why are they great?" I said, "Because I managed to wake up in the morning. I'm healthy. I've got food on the table, slept in a warm bed. I've got a roof over my head. There are so many things that I can be grateful for. So life is really good."
Yeah.
And so it's the choice that you make to focus on the positives that you're getting rather than the negatives that we all do. And that's part of breaking the habit of what it is that you're focusing on. And then, of course, if you surround yourself with people who think the same way as you do, that just helps you change that pattern.
Yeah. Okay, no, cool. I just realized I think we only went live now. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The first part of this now was cut off, so that doesn't matter. We can just carry on. But
The joys of technology.
yeah, I know. It was actually preparing the stream. It wasn't actually streaming.
Okay.
So anyway, missed the first part.
Okay.
If you just joined us now and when we're live now, hopefully we are live. It looks like we are. Then basically we're chatting tonight about Robin Sharma and his masterclass. And just there's 5 main points that he covers in that masterclass. If you're watching this, give us a Facebook like, give us a thumbs up, give us a share if you think somebody could get value out of this. I'm going to repeat what we already mentioned now again, but basically we when we're doing this, we're just sharing the stuff that we've been exposed to in the week or the last 2 weeks or whatever it is, and just sharing that on. We're not by any means doing this, like Juanita said, coming across like we're now experts in this field or anything, but really just sharing. If there's something I've learned was being on these lives, especially with Juanita, and that is that when you have another set of eyes or another view on things, it's quite helpful, because sometimes you can get very narrowed with your perception. And you can take the same topic and somebody else like Juanita, when she's sharing in that, I'm taking in as well, because she's just giving me another spin on the whole thing. And that's what it's about. So that's what we're doing, is sharing. And you might just look at it, and it's not, all we're doing is planting the seed. So it's literally for you to then go and explore it on your own. But we're just literally giving you a few things that's helped us, and hopefully that'll help you or add some value to you, and you can obviously share it and that as well. If you're seeing this on Juanita's feed and on her Facebook Live and that, please share it there, comment there, give her a like there. If you're seeing it on my stuff, I'm going to be putting this through onto YouTube. If you're seeing it there, subscribe to the channel, so you'll be notified on all the future videos that we do and stuff like that. So yeah. We're talking about mindset and heart set. We've spoken briefly about daily routine or morning routine, and just basically saying that, for you to change your habits, because he's quite pedantic on habits. Like he every little, and it makes sense, because it's every little thing that you do leads to the outcome at the end. If you're not doing those small things, then the big things don't come. I don't know if you want to add.
But I think, Quentin, it's about years and years of doing things in a certain way. And that's where the discipline then comes in, because that's what helps you change the old to the new. So if you don't get into the discipline of doing those things and doing them daily and being conscious of it, then you're never going to change those things. And so I can clearly understand why he is so pedantic about the discipline of getting into it and the routine of doing it, because as you're repeating it and doing it over and over again, it just becomes that part of your daily
automatic
routine. Yes.
And then that actually leads to another good point, and I probably mention this every single time, but it's just also, it's the consistency over time. that leads to the big things. And I think a lot of times
Yes.
we change things today, expecting results tomorrow. By tomorrow 5 p.m. things need to change, which is just totally unrealistic. There's a lot of times there is a time value that needs to be factored in, that it's going to take time, no matter what you do. Some people
You know,
might
and
months, you might take 6 months. It just depends. We're all in different walks in life, dealing with different things and stuff. So you can't, it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's
no, no. Well, I think a good example of that is that doesn't matter whether it's mindset, whether you're getting involved in a business, whether you building another income stream. It doesn't matter, because that applies to all of those kinds of things. And I see every day. I see people come into opportunities, businesses, mindset, where they literally, what you were saying is that they think, okay, I'm getting in this today, and tomorrow I've got to be really good at this. Remember that our habits and our thoughts and the way that we do things is something that's been developed over years.
yeah,
It's not something that when the day we were born there it was in our heads and now we've always just been like that. It's a period of time. So I always say to people, you must remember what you're doing is like you said, you're planting the seed. A tree does not grow overnight. It needs nurturing, it needs attention, it needs water, it needs being fed. Okay.
yeah,
And this is exactly the same thing. And depending on the tree that you plant, some of them grow faster than others. So and that's really, really important to understand, is that we are not going to plant the seed tonight and tomorrow you're going to have a tree that is as big as a 10-year-old tree. And a 10-year-old tree, if you're planting a baobab versus a thorn tree, are two completely different pictures.
yes,
So depending on what it is that you need to do and what you need to work on, some things are going to take much longer than other things. And I think that's where the discipline comes in, because a lot of people tend to give up because they feel that they are not seeing the results as quickly as they thought they should be seeing it.
yes.
And discipline and routine is really important. And we've got to keep at it. We've got to really just work at it all the time. And as I say, some things come much faster than other things, but don't give up. Don't give up. That's what the important thing is.
Yeah, it's I can't remember who said it, and that he said, one of the guys, I can't remember who it was or whatever, said that it's funny when a woman's pregnant, she comes down and says, I'm pregnant. You don't nobody goes, okay, cool, where's the baby tomorrow when you wake up? You know it's going to take 9 months, because that's how long it takes. Doesn't matter what you do and whatever, but yet for some reason with other things in life, we just expect things. And one thing I've learned, and I'm going a little bit off track now, but the one thing I've learned also this last week and stuff is that with a lot of skill sets we were briefly chatting about it this morning, but in certain businesses we're involved in, is there's certain skills that are required, and those skills aren't, when somebody says no, they're going to become a doctor, they're going to become a doctor or whatever. You don't next week when you speak to them say, how's it going? How far are you? You know what I mean? Because to study for a doctor is going to take 8 years, 9 years, or whatever it is. You know that. But yet with some certain things we get involved in with business and stuff like that, we have this expectancy whereby, again, by tomorrow, 5 o'clock, I need to have made R1 million. If I don't, then it's a crap business, or it's a crap idea, or whatever, which is quite, a little bit off track, but yeah.
But mindset's the same thing, Quentin, is that we have to continue working on it. So you mentioned Robin Banks early on.
Yeah.
I've been to Robin Banks how many times? And when I go to his presentations, they talk about the same things all the time. But every single time I go, I pick up a different nugget, got something else that I'm learning or that I was exposed to.
Yes.
And so it depends on the stage that you're at, what it is that you're going to pick up on, and what it is that you're going to get value out of it within that session. And it's just, the important thing is for you to start taking the step and realizing that you're at different stages in your life, and you just have to keep going and working on it. And mindset is not something that we're going to be perfect at. It's not something that we're going to develop overnight. But the first step is obviously the fact that we recognize that there's an effort that needs to be put into us developing and growing our mindset. And what Robin Sharma talks about is the discipline of us getting into a routine so that we can start working and developing the right mindset for the space that we're in, because we didn't overnight start thinking the way that we're thinking.
Yes, no, 100%. And the next big thing that he mentioned was gratitude and journaling. Now, the gratitude thing, I think we've been exposed to quite a bit in that, but he's quite again, pedantic about the whole journaling thing and stuff like that, and not too worried about exactly how you write or what you do, but just getting in that routine of journaling. Even goes and says, even if it's it doesn't have to necessarily all just be good. If you're woken up and there's crap happening, it's also good to just, he says a lot of times that's what's happening in the world, is that people are walking around, they're not letting the crap out.
Yes.
And that's also a problem. So rather write it on a piece of paper and write the crap out and get it out of you. You know what I mean? It's a release, basically, is what he was trying to say.
Well, I think what happens is if we're bottling it up, sometimes we make that, it seems much bigger than when we actually get it out. It's like, I just find that, when I've got stuff to do and I'm thinking in my head, all the stuff that I've got to do, as soon as I write it down and I see it on a piece of paper, I realize, okay, well, it felt like it was a million things, but actually it's 5 things. And so it's the visualizing of it. You're visually seeing it, you're visually writing it out. And then it changes the way that you're viewing it. And then lies the value but it is, I agree 100%.
All right, cool. Sorry, I'm just, can you hear me? Struggling to hear you. Might have a connection issue there.
Yeah, seems to be fine. Can you hear me now, Quentin?
It's actually my side. It's just notified
me.
So. All right, cool. So, so he talks about journaling, and he also spoke about, so what I didn't realize about Robin Sharma is a lot of his stuff is actually scientifically proven. So he's got science everything is very scientific what he does in it. So it's not just, do gratitude because you'll feel better and your day will go better and just some willy-nilly thing. There's actually a science where they've shown that when you trigger those gratitude things every morning, I mean, just read here, but he says when you journal, you obviously create clarity, which is exactly what you said now, is creating clarity. But when you focus on gratitude, you actually rewire your brain. They've actually scientifically proven that somebody that consistently focus on that, you actually neuro pathways or whatever they call it, you actually create brand new neuro pathways or whatever in your brain by doing it.
Correct.
So it's scientific stuff. It's not just some airy fairy thing, which I didn't know that it actually has brain effect on what when you do that.
Well, I'm just I've got to try and remember the name of the book now, and we can talk about that another time. But I've shared this with you before. Philip bought one of quantum
physics type thing. I think
it's not quantum physics. It's called quantum something other. But basically what they talk about is the fact that everything is energy. So we're connected to the energy web, and that's what he talks about. And that is why journaling and writing things down and is your emotion. Everything is. So if you're thinking about a spider's web, okay, the spider's on this end, but the bug that flew into the nest is on this end. That web sends motion through that whole web. So that's how the spider knows that it's there. And the energy web is exactly the same thing. And I always say to people, when Philip started sharing some of the information in that book with me, I just said to him, I said, holy mackerel. If we just understood the impact that our thoughts have on the energy web and ourselves, we would not think a single negative thought ever again in our lives. So it's that is 100% right. So, so it doesn't matter whether it's Robin Banks or whether it's whoever. Everything they talk about is based on fact. It's not stuff that they've sucked out of their thumb and just making it up. It's based in absolute fact. It's been proven over and over and over again, the value that those things do add, and the importance of that. It's we spoke the last time we spoke about when you start focusing on the negative, how that pulls you into a spiral of negativity. And this is exactly the same thing. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to focus on the positive, so that you're in a spiral of positiveness, and you're focusing on that all the time. So you're trying to reverse the two. Yeah.
Which is, as we know, not the easiest thing to do always. But again, it's definitely. What do they compare it as well? They compare it to a workout. When you go to gym for the first time in 6 years, and you start lifting, it's muscles that you haven't used. You're gonna be ANA for 2 days, and then so it takes months. And with the mind and that, it's exactly the same. It's muscles, actual legit muscles that you're using and stuff that don't, things that you haven't used in that. So you got to understand it takes some time in that, and you got to build those muscles, if it makes sense.
But I think the gymming is a really good example. Just because I've gone to gym today doesn't mean tomorrow I'm going to have beautiful massive muscles. I'm going to be slim and trim. I've got to work at it all the time. But the other thing as well is, Quentin, is that we always when we go to gym, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go. But go, and when you're there, you actually just derive such pleasure out of being there. Yes, it might be tough, and yes, tomorrow you might be stiff and sore. But when you walk out there, you think, why is it such a struggle to get me here? Because when I'm here, it's such a great thing. I feel good. I really feel so great. Yeah. So why is it that I struggle to get myself to do that? And that's where the discipline that Robin Sharma talks about is, that we're having to get ourselves into that routine where we're not even thinking about it. We're just doing it. It's becoming part of our daily lives, daily routine, and we just doing it. And the gym is a really great example. Most of us could relate to that.
I was gonna say this till a bit later, but now that we sort of already here, another thing that he mentioned, which is quite interesting, is that we all know the 21 days to change a habit or whatever it is, isn't it? But they've now, out of the let me quickly just tell you now, it's out of some London University of London or something like it. We'll get to it just now probably, but basically what they've now shown is it takes 66 days for something to become automatic. And that's exactly what you mentioned now. So when it becomes like you get in your car, you don't have to think anymore about changing the clutch, putting in the petrol, or doing any of that. It becomes automatic. And they've now done studies or whatever, and they've now proven that it's actually 66 days. So he talks about it also, saying that you need to, whatever you do, you need to give it a minimum of 60. So that's about, just over 2 months, just over 2 months. So again, showing it, I think a lot of people are misled with the 21 days, maybe, where you do it for 21 days, counting down the minutes. Okay, it's 21 days. Yes, I've achieved something, and then nothing actually changes. Now it starts making sense that it actually could take a little bit longer. And like I say, that's when you might be able to change a habit in 21 days, but for it to become automatic where you don't have to think about it, 66 days. That's what he mentioned in there now, that they've actually come to. It's exactly what you said. Is basically what you mentioned now, is that where you don't have to think about it anymore, you just do it.
That's it. And and I mean, as I say, you and I've been working on this stuff for a long time, and believe me, just as easily as I could change it, just as easily I get out of it as well. Because the thing is that you're not embedding it, and it's that is what I do every single day. And as I say, when winter comes, oh my gosh, it's the same at gym. As soon as winter comes, then I'm out of that routine. But in saying that, is that I find that getting back into that routine is much easier for me to I don't now have to work on the mindset thing. I can recognize when I'm negative about something, and I can
The
much
recovery is a
easier
lot
get
quicker.
myself. Yes, correct.
So
You know?
again, a good example is the gymming and stuff like that. You'll find a person that's super fit or that's done a lot of fitness in that, their recovery is much quicker.
Much quicker.
So
100%.
yeah, they
Right?
can. Yeah,
Correct.
it's, I suppose a similar concept.
That's it. You know, a lot of people don't think about their brain being a muscle, but that is what it is. It's absolutely you are training that muscle. And you've got to train that muscle to think and behave in a certain way. And if we want it to become fit, we've got to work at it.
Yeah. Cool. The next point that he brought up. So now we're starting to go into the morning routine, and like I said, he's got the 5 a.m. club that he mentions, and starting so he calls it your inner empire, and he says that every morning you should be working on your inner empire before you work on your external empire, because it all starts from here in any case. So. And it basically talks about, okay, here's the University College of London, which did that study was 66 days, where things will actually then become automatic in your life. You don't have to think about it anymore, which again, 21 days is our traditional where we change a habit, but it doesn't mean that it's now automatic. It's still a, so I've got to, my notes here. Remember, all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end was his words explaining that.
Yeah,
which we've basically just mentioned now. You know, hard in the beginning, messed up in the middle, and then lacquer at the end, you know, which is a good way of, I suppose, of thing. And then he calls it the morning thing of mind over mattress. Mind over mattress.
That is brilliant. That is actually very good. I must remember that one, because it's exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, the comfort of staying in bed and a few minutes more, and the few minutes more become, you know, half an hour more.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
exactly.
that was the one thing, and it sort of leads into the next thing, because the next question you typically ask yourself is, fantastic, I wake up at 5 o'clock now. Now, what the hell do I do? You know what I mean? Like, why am I waking up at 5? What's the point? You know, is it just so that I'm awake before everybody else? No, there's actually, again, a science behind it. There's a whole thing behind it that they've proven that that's sort of time. Now, I've heard other guys say 4 o'clock in the morning scientifically and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of, it's not, but his thing is 5 a.m. scientifically, 5 to 6 typically. One of the big things which I agree with is that you're typically waking up before the kids are awake and life's happening, and you start getting messages and all kinds of things. So it again allows you isolated time or focused time.
Well, you see, I think that's the key word, is the isolated time. It's quiet time.
Yeah.
And so it's not because 5 o'clock is the magic number.
Yes.
It is because that is typically the time where it's quiet, where you can have time to yourself, to think for yourself, you know, whether it's go for a walk, whether it's whatever the case might be, before life starts happening, and, you know, and life starts getting busy.
Yes.
And that's the thing. So maybe you're in the fortunate position that, you know, things in your household only gets really hectic at 6 o'clock. You know, or 7 o'clock or whatever. So if 6 to 7 is the time that you can be quiet, then that's the time. But
you know, I think mention that. Yeah, he said that it's not actually that. Now that I remember, it's not that critical so much on that. It's more about the focus and the undistracted time. But you know, if it is a bit later for you, that's not the end of the world and stuff. What he does, and I've heard this from quite a few guys or whatever, what they all agree upon is that you find your morning section is typically where your brain's the most alert, it's the most creative, and all those kind of things. And they're all, when I look at these things, everybody's got a different slightly perception and idea. And one thing I've learned over the last few years is that when you start seeing patterns, like they're saying the same things, then I take those, because if they're all saying the same thing, and then you know it's important, because if there's variations of it or whatever, I'm not too worried about the variations. But one thing, Les Brown talks about it, Tony Robbins, I'm
Yeah.
sure Sharma also talks about it, that morning is critical, where you want to do your most creative stuff in the morning. Again, when you get to work, first hour and a half, he talks about actually doing your most creative stuff, and again, isolating yourself, because you'll get the most done in that hour and a half than what you could get. You see, what they talk about a lot more is what he spoke about a lot more about was also is not so much, okay, I work an 18-hour day. How productive were you? That's
Yes,
the,
that's it.
'cause
Correct.
you could, if you're productive in time management, you could maybe have only needed to work 5 hours and get the same done. So saying working 18 hours a day doesn't mean crap, actually. It's about the productivity, which is far more important.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so anyway, so he said, okay, cool. The first hour is 20 minutes exercise. Again, a whole bunch of sciences. I'm not going to go into that now. Bunch of sciences that prove and show that when you exercise, your brain, endorphins and all kinds of things, all this good stuff happens and stuff. So to get your day kicked off on that, just 20 minutes. It's not a major exercise thing. Just get your heart up, whether it's yoga or whatever it is. Get your heart
Walking,
up.
yeah.
And then 20, so that's the first 20 minutes, and then 20 minutes into the journaling, whatever. And then 20 minutes after that, learning, education. So he says it doesn't actually matter what it is, whether it's self-help stuff or work related, whatever it is. Again, a whole bunch of sciences that are involved there on why you want to set the tone for the day of investing in yourself first. And then I'm going to just jump to the next step, or next one or whatever, is he talks about every single day religiously learning and educating yourself, never stopping that process. And he sort of raised the thing of, a lot of people, first thing they'll say is, but I don't have time for that, and I'm working until whatever, so I don't have time. And he calls it, okay, I want to get this right. So he calls it, you can always join the University of Traffic or the College of Running. So what that is when you're in traffic, you've got a good hour, or if you've got an hour of traffic, put stuff on there. You can learn there. You're running. Get some stuff on your ears, and when you're running your 20 minutes, hour a day, or whatever it is, there you can learn. It's not that you need to sit down physically and sit and take notes. You can learn like that too, is what he's talking about. So his word for that is becoming a 60-minute student.
Yes.
Every day, 60 minutes without fail of something.
And that's the thing that I started doing is obviously now with COVID, obviously traffic's not nearly as bad as it used to be, and it takes me.
So do you drive a long way to
yeah. But even in the 15-20 minutes, Quentin, it's instead of me listening to, I don't know, whoever the radio.
I'm not going to go there, but he spoke about news, so I don't even want to. You can just
100%.
Put it that way.
For years, I've selectively chosen what news I expose myself to and what I listen to. I don't buy the newspaper. I don't. As I say, I selectively choose what it is that I want to expose myself to, because that very much impacts your mindset. But at the same time, I listen to audiobooks. All kinds of things. So I choose what it is that I put into what I listen to on the way to work. Whether it's 20 minutes, or whether it's an hour, is really irrelevant. I choose what it is that I want to hear, and what it is that I want to expose myself to. So I've been doing that for a long time, and I've just found that your stress going to work is you're in a very different space. You don't get yourself into a state about the fact that the idiot in front of you has done whatever, or the taxi has done you because you're in a completely different space, a completely different mindset.
Yes.
So I've for a long time I've been doing that, and that's because what you were saying is that life is busy. I agree with that, but the reality is that we have got time if we plan correctly. And that time that we're sitting in the traffic, traveling somewhere, is time that is otherwise wasted if we don't take advantage of it and listen to stuff in that time.
Yeah.
And So I've just chosen to use my time, because some people say, oh yeah, but I get up at 5 o'clock and then I go for my run, or my kids go get up, or whatever the case might be. I don't have time for this. You just, and it may be what you're doing is you're just exposing yourself to it in shorter chunks, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes there, but I think at the end of the day, it is about how you start in your day, and that's where all those sayings come from, is that you got out of bed with the wrong foot. It's exactly that, is that you woke up with a specific mindset, and
the
you
rest of
got
the
out of
day is
bed.
going to follow that
Yes,
pattern.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
I can speak for myself. You don't need to be, I think every single person that will watch this can in some way relate that if you started your day in a shit mood or whatever, typically the rest of the day follows.
But the thing that I've realized, Quentin, is that is a choice that we're making. We are choosing for that thing to upset our day, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that was in your mind at that moment, or whatever it is that happened at that moment, is you're choosing for that thing to impact the rest of your day. And that's what this is about. And this gets you into a specific mindset and a frame of mind, and it's about developing the skills so that when something is upsetting you, that you can then get yourself out of that and recognize, okay, well, this has now upset me. I now need to change my mindset around it, my focus around it. And so that I'm changing the direction of how I feel and how I choose my day's going to turn out.
Yeah.
It's, it's life happens, and then we choose how to deal with it. We do.
I think a lot of what I picked up on this is also that there's certain things behind starting your day with whatever it is, 20 minutes, if it's 20 minutes, 15, 10, 5, or whatever. It's more the actual, that's why I suppose they call it a ritual. It's more about the actual habit, not so much what you're doing. Because when you get started like that, then it's sort of, it makes it a lot easier. Yes, you still can have a cut day, obviously. It doesn't mean that every single day is going to be fantastic or whatever. But what I think you find is that it's a lot easier to correct yourself when you started correctly, as opposed to starting crappy. Now, the longer the day goes on, it just becomes more difficult. And I suppose that's where the saying comes with, I'll deal with that tomorrow. Like, start the day again type thing, reset. I want to just say, I didn't, the last thing that he mentioned, whatever, and this is the last one or whatever, is he spoke about he's got a 90-91 rule. First 90 minutes of your day at work, which is not always possible for everybody, is working on your biggest opportunity. I'm not going to go into it too much, but and then the second 90 is do this for 90 days and focus on one thing. So what he was saying is, from a billionaires and stuff that I've worked with on that, is they're very focused on one thing. They don't try and do 100 things in their business, whatever. They'll take one thing, focus on it solely until they get it sorted out, and they'll move on to the. Yes, of course, they've got to sort out other things, but the core of what they do is focused on one thing. And it's, again, scientifically proven, your brain and whatever, that you actually can't deal with too many things at the same time. You just become inefficient. So you need to focus on one thing, focus on it, get what you need to do, and then move on to the next task or whatever, as opposed to trying to do 5 things, because you just become, and that's, he's 90. So doing it the first hour and a half of the day, focusing on the most important thing that will get you the most results, in business or work or whatever it is, doing that for 90 days and focusing on one thing, and then you'll see what sort of results you get from that.
And that's why the documenting and writing it down is so important, because then you can, because when you're visually seeing it, you can say, okay, well, this is the most important thing that I need to focus on now. That's why that is such an important thing to get into, because you can clearly see what the picture is. You're visualizing it, and that's absolutely why that's important. And and I can relate to that, because at the moment I feel like when I'm at work, I feel like I'm bouncing off the walls, because there are so many things that happens in a day. Then I'm here, then I'm there, then I'm there, And then when I get to the end of the day, I look and I think, oh my goodness, you know, I think, what have I done today?
Yeah, it feels like you've done nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I mean, and that is an important thing, is to just go and say, okay, what is it that I have to do? What is the first thing that I must do? Is this thing, and then focusing on that thing and finishing it, you know. And I think what happens is that we get distracted during the course of the day through, whether it's emails, phone calls, whatever the case might be, and the discipline of sticking. That's the thing that I need to do. And I'm not saying that you've got to say, okay, for the next hour or 2 hours, I'm going to focus on that thing. I may finish it, I might not finish it.
Yeah, it's not about finishing it. It's just about focusing on that for an hour and a half. If it's not finished, it's not finished, and you move on. If it's a task you have to get done, then you carry on until it's done. But then getting it done, as opposed to doing, and I'm famous for this, getting involved. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm like, shit to this, and then I'm here, and then I'm like, then I have to remember there again. Yeah, so I've really focused on putting down stuff and saying, okay, now I'm doing this, and then when that's done, then I move on to the next thing and have a task list.
Exactly.
You can also then go, okay, cool, what have I done today? It's a lot more focused, because now you know you've got these 7 or 8 things, big things done, and then the little things after that or whatever.
But, you know, and if you go back to a task list and you start going and ticking off, then you actually realize, okay, well, I've managed to do all of this, even though I feel like I haven't done it. You can see, but I have, okay, you know. And I just find when I do that, I've got a big whiteboard in my office, got one at home. I write them on that board, you know, and as things come up, I add it to the list, and then as I finish them, I tick them off, you know, and then I can then see what it is that I've accomplished. Whereas if I just have all of the stuff in my head, I never feel like I've accomplished anything.
Yeah.
So for me, writing it down and visualizing it, and I'm very much a visual person. I think in pictures. So if I can write it down and see it, it certainly helps me a lot. And I just feel like I'm not everywhere.
Most people, actually everybody thinks in pictures, whether they realize it or not. Because that's where, you know, if you remember something or whatever, you remember the visual thing of it. You don't necessarily remember that's the only way you can remember, I suppose, is the actual picture of something or whatever. And they keep, and that's that exercise of, if I tell you pink elephant, what are you thinking about? Pink elephant.
Pink elephant.
You can see the pink elephant. So everybody thinks in pictures. That's just that's how your brain actually works. All right,
so
John.
Does he talk about tackling the things that you least want to do most first? So in other words,
I know this whole concept. So this was more just a real overview. It was only 90 minutes long or whatever. There is an actual full masterclass that you can join or whatever that goes into everything in detail. But I know exactly where you're going with this conversation. Yeah. So taking your thing, because, and I wanted to mention that, but basically, I think this is what you're saying is, and I know for myself, is at the end of the day, if you've got 50 things to do, something's not going to get done. Okay, so there's unfortunately something on that list is not going to get done. It's impossible to do everything, and it's about prioritizing the big things, the things that you tomorrow or this afternoon,
or the thing that you've been putting off for so long,
getting those things out of the way and working through it, because the less small little unimportant things, let those wait for tomorrow. You know what I mean?
So there's a saying that Mark Twain had, where he says, eat a live frog first in the morning and nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day.
So that pretty much, puts it in perspective, or one-liners pretty much. I think, what is Jeremy Clarkson always saying? On that bombshell, I think that's probably where we can end it, is on that bombshell. Yeah,
exactly right.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like we went on live, it cut off again and whatever, but I'm gonna be, you probably, if you're watching this now, you'll be watching it on Facebook, you'll be watching it on Juanita's page where she's posting it. I'll be posting it on YouTube. Like I say, give us some comments, give us some feedback. Even if you don't enjoy it, or if you disagree with something, by all means, leave your comment, have your say. Feedback is always good, even if it's negative feedback, it doesn't really matter. And yeah, and if you do feel like somebody could get some value out of this, please share it on Juanita's page if you see it there. Yeah, just share it around, and we will be back this time next week again.
Excellent. Super.
Cool.
Thanks, Quentin. It's always great. Thank you.
Okay, Juanita. Thanks. Cheers.
Keep well. Bye.